Can you make your screen big? Okay, so we're just going to jump right in. We want to welcome everyone that's joining us tonight. We're really excited that you're here. We are obviously in the middle of a pandemic, and we've had the illness and we've recovered. It's taken us about 21 days to get fully to what we would consider ourselves well. And so we just wanted to share with you all the things that we've learned in hopes that it will prepare you. So first of all, I want to establish that I have a bachelor's degree in health education. And so I've been teaching people for years how to strengthen their body and their immune system. We are not doctors, so we don't make prescriptions. We don't tell you what you should or should not do should you get sick, but we do share a lot of knowledge and information in the class. And we just wanted to make you aware of the things that you can expect when it comes to the illness. Unlike doctors who treat symptoms, we just, like I said, share information on how to help people be prepared, because the truth of the matter is when we are prepared and we understand what we're dealing with here, it takes away that element of fear.
So by sharing what our story is, we're hoping that we can bring a little clarity to you, hopefully give you some idea what to expect if you happen to get the illness, and take away some of the fear that's going on in the world today. We're all in this battle together. We have a bunch of information that we found that we used as we were going through the illness ourselves that we think will be helpful to you. And we think the more information you have will help you just to have a proactive plan so that you don't get into it and you start getting fearful. So that's the whole point of tonight. When we get done, we actually have a free giveaway for you that covers a lot of the things in detail, more detail than we can cover in this actual webinar. But we do want to give that to you. It's the first thing actually that you will need to know about is what we're going to cover in that giveaway. It gives you a lot of free links of things that have information that we found that was valuable to us as we were going through this. And it'll go through a lot of the things we're talking about specifically. So the first thing we're going to cover is those 7 things you need to know that nobody's really talking about. And then we will save a little time at the end for questions and answers for those of you who have any. So let's get started.
Okay. So as you know, we're living in uncertain times with the pandemic, and this is an emergency. And an emergency requires an emergency plan. So we do encourage you to create a plan for your family of what you will and will not do should someone come down with the illness. So the first thing you're going to find in that free download that we are giving you at the end of this class is this sheet. And it says COVID-19 Toolkit Emergency Plan for Physical Health. And I'm going to go over it to make sure you understand it. First of all, the first thing you and your family need to know is the closest testing site near you for COVID-19. We recommend the drive-through sites because you're going to come in contact with less illness unless you're in a crisis. If you're in a crisis, you obviously go to the hospital. But if you are just curious and you feel like you may be coming down with it, the drive-through sites are going to keep you from being exposed to more illness. And the place that you're going to find that is at cdc.gov. And when you get there, there's actually a little button that you're going to click on called self-check. And that will take you through the process and help you find the closest testing site that you can go to. The next part of the sheet is just your physician contact name, number, and address. And then because this is an illness that involves, and as we go farther into this webinar, an explanation about how your emotions get involved, you need to have a code word. Everybody in your household needs to have a code word that they're going to use if they feel like they're coming to a place where they need you to call 911. Sometimes it's hard to think. I know when Dan had it, he got sick and I got sick, but he was sicker than I was in the first part of the illness. And as a result of that, I would have to constantly check on him. So communication is really important. So having that code word that you can share should you feel like you're going into a crisis is really important. You also want to establish ahead of time what hospital would we go to should we have a crisis. And its address. And then also, just to be prepared, if you come down with it, because 82% of people only have mild symptoms versus the severe crisis symptoms. And if that's the case and you decide to weather it at home, which is what we did, you need to decide ahead of time what room will each person bed down in as they, or if they were to get sick. That's really important. You want to make sure everybody has a cosmetic bag if you take any kind of drugs, pharmaceutical drugs at all, already prescriptions, then you need to have that bag ready as well. Also, how will you communicate in quarantine? Will you use your cell phones? If you have children that are younger than that, do you have walkie-talkies? Do you have a way that you can communicate with each other? Because that communication is so important.
Yeah, actually, when we were sick, we were held up in a 2-bedroom condo, and so our 2 sons were on the other side of it, and we were on one. And I just
we had to call each other back and forth.
I called them and told them, "Hey, go get us lunch, get us dinner." So that's how we did it.
And then make sure you also, everybody in our house has a Ziploc bag. In the bag is a mask, a small pack from the Dollar Tree of antibacterial wipes, and a couple of packs of vitamin C, and some gloves. For example, if everybody keeps that in their car, you're more prepared, because one of the ways that it can be transferred is just touching surfaces. For example, if you're at the gas pump and you're pumping gas, you need to put those gloves and that mask on. So we recommend everybody have one of those in your car. And then the last part of the sheet is symptoms list for each family member, so that you can put your family members' names at each spot. And then it gives you the checklist of what you're looking for, so that you're keeping up with those symptoms. So that's the sheet that will be in your packet, one of the first things you'll find. And then aside from that, we want to make sure that you are prepared for building your immune system.
That's
so
that's
the third point. Make sure you are building your body up in case you come in contact with it. And the 4 ways you can do that is to eat alkaline foods. An acidic body encourages growth of bacteria and viruses, and even cancer cells. So having a more alkaline body is healthy. So all you have to do to get that list of those foods is actually just Google, what's a list of alkaline foods? And you will find them there. We encourage you to add those to your diet. Also, taking vitamin C, taking vitamin D3, taking zinc, and taking amino acids. We recommend a daily vitamin. We actually have some videos on our Instagram feed already that we were shooting before we got sick and before it actually came to America, just to prepare people. So if you have an Instagram account, go out and check those videos out. It's at Living in Nobility. That's where we are.
Those things that she just covered are the things the infectious disease doctor, the #1 in Atlanta, told us that those are the things to help you in this particular crisis. Make sure you do those.
Okay, so point number 4 that nobody's really talking about is that this illness seems to come in 2 phases. So phase number 1, it's really interesting. You've probably heard stories on the news where somebody got well and then they were sent home and then they came back sicker. So what we learned from experience firsthand, because we got sick while we were out of town, what we didn't know at that point was that it does come in 2 phases. So we quarantined, we did everything we could to beat the virus itself in that first phase. Then we were so well, we drove home from being out of town. It's like a 5-hour drive. We came home, we shot a 15-minute video to teach on our experience, and little did we know, phase 2 had not hit. So we got really sick after that. So we're gonna talk about those 2 phases here with you. But we just wanted to make sure that you understand this illness comes in typically in 2 phases. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan and let him talk about phase 1.
So in phase 1, this is where you hear about what the symptoms are. You may have already researched it, but the main ones are cough, fever, and shortness of breath. But there's a whole lot of other ones that people aren't necessarily talking about, which include a headache, sore and itchy throat, heavy or tight chest, heart palpitations and loss of appetite, and diarrhea. Those other ones are actually could be more serious. So if you have any of those, make sure you track it. Maybe you do some research. In our case, what happened was I had been out of town. I had traveled to Boston and California. This was before all the restrictions. And I came home, then we went out of town on our vacation. And with that, what actually, a couple of days after we got into the vacation, I noticed I had kind of a cough. And really the problem was I realized I had it, but I kind of denied that, oh, well, that's nothing. And about 12 to 14 hours later, Lydia said, oh, well, she was having problems with her chest. And that's when it hit me. Oh, I must be having, some of the symptoms. So the first thing and number 5, the number one thing is don't deny you have symptoms. If anything's coming up, recognize it, isolate yourself so nobody else can catch it from you, because it's human nature. You just kind of want to slough it up. Oh, that's not me. And part of what was going through my mind too was, in the Bible, it talks about people that had leprosy. And, when you think about this virus, no one wants to be near you. And so I thought, I don't want anyone knowing that I might be. So realize that. Make sure you tell it someone else in your family, isolate yourself, recognize it, and don't deny it, because really the first 48 hours are the critical part to fighting this. And you need to get on it very quickly so that you can overcome it and not end up in a serious situation. Besides the vitamins, there's some natural things we did once we knew we were in the stages of actually having the virus. And those are also in the free giveaway we're giving you. Check those out. Don't take ibuprofen. There's mixed things that talk about. Some say it's okay. Some say it's not. Because of the headache I had, I certainly wanted to take it. I did not take it because in some cases it said it makes it worse.
Yeah, I'll explain that a little bit later in phase 2 discussion.
So there's other things that we're going to tell you in the free gift, but I guess as you start moving out of the phase 1, the phase 1 takes 3 to 5 days. Typically.
At least for us, that's what it was.
Yeah, and again, it's from our personal experience. And we started feeling, I felt like I was fine, and then it hit about 2 or 3 days later. So that first phase is really more about the virus, getting on it as quickly as possible so you can make sure it does as little damage as possible.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what phase 2 looks like for us. And actually, based on what we're reading and even having a discussion with an infectious disease doctor here in Atlanta, phase 2 really is a transitional phase, and it's the phase they call the danger zone, because it goes from managing a virus to managing your organs, literally. So they're saying that the most affected organs, or the organs that it's attacking the most, is your sympathetic nervous system, your heart, your lungs, and your kidneys. So these are the organs that you're going to want to support during that time. You can support them ahead of time if you feel like there's a weakness there and you're trying to not catch it. But you definitely want to support them. If you're one of those 82% who has light or mild symptoms, you still need to be supporting those organs during that phase. You could actually be looking at a fever spike during that time. Dan actually didn't have a fever till 3 days in. I never had a fever until almost the first phase is over, and it was so minimal you wouldn't even know it. And so you don't necessarily have a serious fever, but in that second phase, that fever can spike because of what's going on. One of the main reasons is that the people that are finding themselves in crisis are finding themselves there for 3 main reasons: pneumonia, or organ failure, or sepsis. And sepsis is an infection in the bloodstream. And a lot of times organ failure can cause that, or that can cause organ failure. So it kind of goes both ways. So we're just going to mention a few things that you can do to support the body in that phase. So point number 7 that nobody's talking about, let me make sure I covered number 6, is that it comes in 2 phases. And point number 6 is it transfers from managing your virus to managing your organs. So point number 7 that nobody's really talking about is pay close attention to your emotions, because the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight system. And so it's like everything starts going bananas, and you're going to have these intense emotions typically when the sympathetic nervous system is under attack. And so for me, I felt a lot of different emotions. One of the ways that we knew our 12-year-old had it, and he was pretty much asymptomatic, but we started noticing one day after we were on the recovery on the backside of phase 2, every time I would ask him a question, he would scream the answer. And I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, these are not normal responses. And then we started talking through it with him and realized he did have it, we believe. It was a very mild case, and they said children typically are not being affected severely, but we knew that because of the sympathetic nervous system was involved. So some of the things you're going to want to do during that time is you're going to realize that sleep is crucial to the sympathetic nervous system. You've got to get sleep. And the weird thing about this illness is there seems to be an element of insomnia in phase 2, which is absolute opposite of what you actually need to remain calm and for your body to heal itself. So we suggest playing calm music, playing worship music has been very helpful for us. Reading your Bible, reading the Psalms, where you can really get nurtured in your spirit because you're trying to maintain a calmness and a peace despite what your emotions are feeling the urgency to do. Speaking those scriptures out loud. Another thing you can do is drink something so natural, chamomile tea. That's something that we are still drinking at night right now because we're still sort of struggling with insomnia. And then another thing is avoid the use of your phone, especially after 8 p.m. because it affects your melatonin levels in your brain, which is a natural chemical that helps put you to sleep. And you want to be able to sleep during this phase 2 of the illness. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dan, and he's going to talk about ways that you can strengthen the kidneys and the lungs.
So for the kidneys, because they are something that struggles because you're trying to eliminate all the toxins from your body, you need to drink lots of water, helps flush your system, helps get you get that stuff out as quickly as possible. And with that, this is one of the things that we didn't know, but we found out. You don't want to drink cold or ice water,
No.
lukewarm or teas, herbal teas, things like that, because actually warm things help kill the virus too. So
yeah, they found that heat dismantles those virus.
So drink lots of water with lemon, lots of water, and warm, more room temperature type things. You can add a little maple syrup. Maple syrup has some natural healing properties and helps eliminate and kill viruses too. Because of the kidneys, cranberry pills or cranberry juice without sugar is good for you. Other raw juices, just try and stay away from apple juice and those that are very sugary. Sugar is not good and depletes your immune system.
And it raises your alkaline. It makes your body more acidic, which you're trying to avoid.
And then the last couple for the kidneys themselves is things like onions, garlic, and berries for blueberries and strawberries. Those are just some food things. Food can be medicine because your food is actually helping your body. God created your body to heal itself. And if we bring in the right things in our body, such as the right foods, drink enough water, and other things, it can help the body itself fight off these things. Now, the next thing is our lungs. It's interesting, kidneys and lungs are the things from Scripture. If you go in and you start studying it, it talks about those are things that actually are attached to fear. So problems with your lungs and your kidneys can also be attached to the emotion of fear. So if you support these things properly, it can help relieve some of the fear you may be having. Make sure your air filters in your house are clean so you're circulating pure air, not with a lot of dust. Avoid inhaling strong chemicals like Clorox. So you want to clean, but you don't want to clean with things that are going to affect your lungs. So you got to be careful with what you're actually cleaning with. Avoid dairy and things that cause mucus and things that actually hurt your lungs. And eat a lot of broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things that are good for you from a lung. Onions and garlic also are good for the lungs. Peppermint tea is another thing that helps with, and eucalyptus, things like that are helping with open the airways and help you breathe better. And then lastly, one of the things I did in the second phase, because I got home, I was fine, and then all of a sudden it hit me again, and I had no energy whatsoever. It just wiped me out. So I just went and took an Epsom salt bath a couple times. That helps just eliminate things from your body. And as long as you don't have a fever, don't do a hot bath if you got a fever. But if you don't have the fever, an Epsom salt bath can help alleviate some of those toxins.
Yeah. Okay, so, and also one thing we didn't talk about is we did use essential oils the entire time, especially for breathing. So since you were talking about the lungs, peppermint oil and eucalyptus oil, you might have mentioned those, are great if you know anything about essential oils to be able to inhale those. And
peppermint's one that can help with your headache if you happen to have that. But to be honest, I tried it.
And it didn't work for him.
Nothing helped with that. It was terrible.
But a lot of times peppermint does help with a headache. And if you don't have access to essential oils, they have peppermint oil in the baking department at the grocery store, and all the grocery stores are open during this time so far. You may be able to pick up peppermint oil there, and all you do is drop 2 drops in the palm of your hand, rub them together, and then cup them over your nose. That can help with breathing, and it can also help with the headache. It didn't help his, but it can help some people. Everybody's DNA is a little bit different. Okay, so now we're going to talk about supporting the heart, which is really important. Your heart is an emotional organ. Actually, all of our organs tend to have emotions attached to them. Like he mentioned, fear can be attached to the lungs and the kidneys. Heart is just an emotional organ in and of itself. And so we're talking about strengthening your emotional heart as well as your physical heart. So one of the things, again, you can do, this helps with the sympathetic nervous system and your heart, is, you know, use a Bible app. Let it read to you. Let it read scripture out loud to you. You know, another scripture that we use when we're teaching our kids is the Bible says, I've given you your senses that you might establish good from evil. So if you're going to be laying in the bed because you don't feel like doing anything and you need lots of rest in phase 2, we don't recommend you watching TV that has anything on it that would heighten your sympathetic nervous system. So that means like no Avenger movies, no high heart rate, scary horror, any of that. You want to encourage your spirit and, you know, abide by that scripture. You know the difference between what you watch, whether it's bringing good things to you or not.
We watch a lot of Hallmark.
Oh, yeah. We watched a lot of Hallmark during our time. And so you want to make sure that you're doing things that are peaceful, because that's for your emotional heart. For your physical heart, green tea is really, really good for your physical heart. Raw garlic. You can also buy garlic probably in the pharmacy department at the grocery store, which is a really good immune builder, but it also is really good for the heart itself in capsules. Or if you don't want to do that, you can buy raw garlic. Sometimes we buy raw garlic, just chop it up and take like 1/4 of a teaspoon and swallow it. It's just good for your body. Leafy greens and lots of nuts and seeds will also be beneficial to your heart, but we don't recommend you eat peanuts. That's a totally different kind of nut. We're talking about walnuts, which are really high in antioxidants, pecans, almonds, Brazil nuts, but yeah, macadamia nuts maybe, but not peanuts. And that is all of the information that we have as far as supporting the organs goes. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for any questions. If you have questions you want to ask.
Yeah, and if you just want to put them on the chat, we're not going to open up the mics, but just put it on the chat. We had a few questions ahead of time that we're going to go ahead and answer for some people. But if you do have any, please feel free to put it on the chat.
Yeah.
One of the first ones was, why not use ibuprofen? And we found some interesting information.
Yeah, so I researched that so I could answer that question because somebody wanted to know that. This is our second time to teach this class. And it's because in that phase 2, what ends up happening is your body starts releasing mass doses of histamine and also mast cells. And so when your body starts releasing those, it's hard on the organs. That's what's triggering the sympathetic nervous system. And ibuprofen interacts with mast cells and those chemicals. So that's why they're saying don't use ibuprofen during that time.
We had another question. It was, what can we do for headaches? We covered that a little bit with the oils, but because you can't use ibuprofen, the doctors are saying Tylenol works okay. I still, if you can get by without drugs, I think it's better for you because Tylenol is hard on the liver. So, you know, if you have to have something, Tylenol would be the drug to take.
Yeah. Okay, somebody asked, how much vitamin C, D3, and zinc should you be taking? And so we can't make recommendations. We can just tell you the amounts we took. But also, I did confirm those amounts with an infectious disease doctor. And so the amounts that we actually took during the whole time we were sick, and still we're taking them, is a mega dose of these things. These are the things listed in your download that you're going to get at the end of this for free. But the amounts are greater. Those are things that build your immune system you can take every day. But for the illness sake, we took vitamin C at 2,000 milligrams 3 times a day. So that was 6,000 milligrams total in a day. We recommend ester C to anybody who's just wanting to be healthy, because ester C is a time-released vitamin C, and time-released vitamin C is better for your stomach. It's not as hard on it. So ester C is what we took, 2,000 milligrams 3 times a day. Vitamin D3, the infectious disease doctor talked about this with me, 10,000 IUs per day was what he said was they were using. And then zinc at 25 milligrams a day. So you don't take nearly as much of zinc as you do all those other things. But those are the things that we use. And we also increased our amino acid vitamin. We take, amino acids are a building block. They help your body actually absorb your vitamins. So if you take a daily vitamin, if you're not taking amino acids, you may not even be absorbing your vitamin. So when we're teaching people how to strengthen their immune system or build their body up, we recommend you take an amino acid. But during the time of the illness, it seemed like an amino acid is a protein building block. It seems like maybe for us anyway, our bodies needed a whole lot more amino acids. So I upped my amino acid to 3 times a day. Me personally, I don't know how much you were taking, but amino acids is something it seems like the body might be needing during the illness itself.
And we had another question on what does blood type have to do with this? And I've heard different stories out of France, out of some of the other countries where they did seem some correlation between blood type and how effective or how much damage the virus is doing to people.
Depending on their blood type?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me try to explain that. That's kind of a long explanation, but I'm going to try to explain it as quickly as I can. So according to some of the, like when I saw that research coming out of China first, it made sense to me because of some of the research I had done years back on blood type and how it affects your stomach acid. So whenever we're sick, there's always a play going on inside the gut. And so if you're an A blood type, based on the studies by a doctor I'd been reading all his research on years ago, it seems that A blood types have a lower acidity in their stomach acid, which means their stomach acid might not be potent enough to attack an invader, like a virus or a bacteria or whatever. And what the studies were saying is that O blood types seem to be faring the best in the illness and A blood types seem to be doing the worst. Well, O blood types have the highest acidity in their stomach acid, which means when that germ gets down in the gut, the O blood type body is going crazy, killing it. Whereas the A acidity may not be quite high enough. Now, there's nothing proving all of this information. This is just stuff coming out of other countries, and they haven't really talked about that much in America on it. What I know from my studies based on the acidity of the stomach acid is that if you want to improve your production of stomach acid, a natural way to do that is with apple cider vinegar. You can take a half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar by mouth. I recommend organic. That's what we have, and we take it every now and then, depending on what's going on with our bodies. And that actually is a balancer of alkalinity in your stomach. But what it does is it causes your body to make more stomach acid. And so that might be a way to help fight it where you come in contact with it. The B blood type and the AB blood type are listed as just having a normal acidity. But, you know, we, like I said, don't have the full studies on it. Those are just things that we already knew and had information about. So when I saw that coming out of China, I immediately recognized probably what's going on is the stomach is not killing it, which is why some people are having stomach issues with the illness, and that's a rarity. But what they're saying is that, and they haven't attached that to blood type, but a lot of people having stomach issues are the ones not faring as well who have the COVID. And so it would be interesting to see, and I'm hoping they do studies later to see if those who have the stomach symptoms were type A blood types. Who knows whether they'll be able to do that or not. But anyway, that's the information on the blood type diet.
And then we had another question. If one of you is sick, how do you keep everyone else from getting sick? And to be perfectly honest, we did everything we could to keep our sons from getting it, but we're pretty confident even though our oldest he's an O blood type.
He's an O blood type.
He was asymptomatic. He really didn't have any issues.
No symptoms,
Our
but he
younger one had some of the symptoms. And in general, we were all unfortunately, part of the 80% that was relatively mild, even though it took, I mean, it really took almost 4 weeks to get over it. But to get, it's really difficult as contagious as disease is, as long as what they're saying, it lives on surfaces, multiple days or a long time. Do everything you can that they're telling you. Wash your hands, put on a mask. If one of you is sick, make sure they stay isolated in their own room. Do everything you can to kind of keep everyone separated and just follow the standards they're giving you. And the biggest thing is the things we're recommending. Build your immune systems. Do the things. If someone's sick, go ahead and start the other treatments, some of the natural things we're recommending ahead of time, because it's just going to build your immune system and help you if you happen to contract.
And create that emergency plan. There's one last question that we've been asked, and that is, what do you do once you're well? So what I would say is to be mindful of things, because as we've gone through this process of learning more and more about the illness, things seem to be changing every day. You have to keep in mind every human body's DNA is totally different. So you have no idea how your personal DNA is going to respond to it. And that being said, they've said that they now, at one point they said, we think you can even catch it from somebody's eyes. So now they're wearing the mask over the eyes. So the things that we're recommending you do after you're well are the things we are in the process of doing ourselves, which is sterilize everything, throw away your toothbrush. Maybe if you've used mascara, throw away your mascara. Also, even during the illness and even still, once you're all well, make sure everybody's sheets are washed in this hot of setting as you can in your washer and dryer. But we did find, because there was a few times where I felt like I was getting better, and then I'd wake up one morning and I'd think, wow, I feel like those symptoms are back again. And we realized we needed to be constantly changing, almost daily, or at least every other day, changing the sheets regularly through the process, because it is living longer on surfaces, and changing PJs more often. So those are some of the things to keep in mind during, but also after it's over, as well as just cleaning everything, every flat surface, every doorknob, and every handle, water spigot in your household. And you can do that a lot of different ways. I have a Scusi steamer, which is really hot. There's no chemicals involved. There's no inhale, like odors or anything. Not everybody has a Scusi. It's steam heat that kills everything. However, if you don't have any of that, if you don't happen to have one of those, use cleaners that you feel confident in that kills germs, but be sure you're mindful of the fact that you don't want to be inhaling anything. So you want to wear your mask while you're cleaning, because you don't need to inhale those chemicals, because that's going to trigger or may cause you to be stepped back a little.
Okay, and so I'm putting in the chat the place you can go and get our free download. It's www.askdan and Lydia, just one word, AskDanAndLydia.us. So if you go there, there's a free download for you. It gives you all the information and a lot more of what we shared here. And our blessings on you. We'll be praying for you that hopefully you won't get it, but hopefully this alleviates some of your fear if you have come in contact with it, to know that God's still in control. He's going to take care of us, but this will help you understand what to do in the situation.
Yeah, we're praying for you. If you need us, you can reach out and message us through Facebook or through info@danandlydia.us, and we are here if you should need prayer.
Yep. Blessings.
Take care.
Bye.